Dear all concerned, the topic of this video message is transparency of EU funding to non-governmental organizations. As the reporting member for this upcoming special report, I want to emphasize the importance of this audit, which cannot be overstated. The transparency of NGOs financing has been repeatedly addressed in discussions and studies at EU level, with the European Parliament calling for a more transparent process in NGOs funding from the EU budget. Our audit aims to shed light on this crucial matter. In the period of 2021-2023, every year from 2,200 to 2,600 NGOs received EU payments totaling 10.3 billion euros, with member states managing about 80% of EU funding for NGOs. The EU stresses the need for having a transparent and regular dialogue with civil society organizations, of which non-governmental organizations are a subset. The Commission is committed to support them in their role in democratic policy making and stronger Europe through EU funding and different policy initiatives. NGOs are not a homogeneous group of entities. In fact, they vary considerably in size, values, organization, and approach, performing a variety of roles in many areas. They are active at different levels, from small ones carrying out activities at a local level to big international NGOs present in many countries around the world. NGOs are financed from different public and private sources. They can receive EU funding as beneficiaries directly from the Commission and other EU bodies, indirectly from implementing partners like international organizations such as United Nations bodies, financial institutions, or other NGOs, and or under shared management from member states handling EU programs. European Parliament and its Budgetary Control Committee maintain a high interest in the transparency and accountability of NGOs funding, especially after the Qatargate scandal at the end of 2022, when corruption allegations against members and former members of the European Parliament also involved NGOs. After the update of the study on accountability and budgetary control of NGOs in 2019, a new study on transparency and accountability of EU funding for NGOs has been released in September 2023, which identified several weaknesses in the financial and public transparency of EU funds allocated to NGOs under direct and indirect management. In January 2024, the European Parliament approved a resolution on the transparency and accountability of NGOs funded from the EU budget. While the resolution has acknowledged the vital role played by NGOs in representing civil society and in promoting and defending the rights and values of the European Union, it also condemned the increase in the exploitation of EU funds against EU principles and values, especially when the use of funds and transfers to other organizations are not entirely traceable. Among others, the European Parliament reiterated the call for more transparency requirements, especially when funds are passed along a chain and used to co-fund joint projects with other donors, and the need for the publication of any funding received from other sources in relation to projects co-financed by the European Union. Our audit aims to make recommendations to enhance transparency of EU funding for NGOs, covering the entire process from the selection and award of EU funds to the information to be disclosed. We hope to address the dispersed nature of information on NGOs funding and the lack of verification of funding information. By addressing these issues, we can ensure that EU funding for NGOs becomes more transparent and accountable. We invite you to anticipate the forthcoming release of the report in the beginning of 2025, as we continue our efforts towards establishing a more transparent and efficient framework for NGOs funding.